The grand hall of the interstellar tournament buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of species from across the galaxy had gathered to witness the competition, a contest of skill, intelligence, and courage that would determine who could claim the greatest prize, the right to choose a companion from among the galaxy's most prestigious families. For centuries, alien leaders had competed here, showing off their abilities, their technology, and their armies. Humans were rare at the tournament, often seen as simple and unremarkable. Many assumed they had little chance to win. Ethan, a human, from a small, peaceful planet on the outskirts of explored space, stood quietly at the edge of the arena. Unlike the other contestants, he wore no flashy armor or bright uniforms. His clothing was plain, his stance unassuming. Many delegates whispered, "Why would a human even enter?" But Ethan had a plan. He had studied every rule of the tournament and had trained his mind and body for this moment. Humans were underestimated, but they had a unique way of thinking, creative, bold, and unpredictable. Ethan smiled slightly. He knew the galaxy expected him to fail. The first challenge began. A maze full of shifting walls and traps. Contestants had to navigate through it, collect a glowing crystal, and return it to the starting point. Aliens rushed forward, relying on their speed, strength, or advanced technology. Ethan waited, watching the maze carefully. He noted patterns in the moving walls, subtle clues hidden in the lighting, and weak points in the traps. While others rushed and triggered alarms or fell into pitfalls, Ethan moved steadily, using his observation and timing to avoid every obstacle. By the time he reached the crystal, several of the strongest alien contestants were stuck or trapped. Next came the test of intellect, a puzzle that required connecting ancient energy circuits to power a dormant starship. Many of the contestants tried brute force, sending sparks flying and overloading circuits. Ethan, however, calmly studied the design. He traced each line, visualized the flow of energy, and connected the circuits in a careful, precise order. The ship powered on with a smooth hum, drawing gasps from the audience. Finally, the last challenge was courage, stepping onto a floating platform above a chasm of bright, swirling energy, where contestants had to retrieve a symbolic orb while facing distractions from holographic illusions. Aliens shrieked and faltered at the illusions. Some ran, some froze. Ethan took a deep breath. He focused only on the orb, ignoring the swirling lights and phantom figures. One step, then another, and he reached the orb without hesitation. When the challenges were over, the judges convened. Ethan, the human, had scored higher than any other competitor. A quiet murmur spread through the audience. Impossible, some said. No human could outthink and outmaneuver the best of the galaxy. Yet the data did not lie. Ethan had won. The reward was announced. The winner could choose a companion from the noble families attending the tournament. The camera pans to rows of delegates, all wearing elegant ceremonial attire. Each family had brought their most remarkable heir, many of whom were highly trained, skilled, and influential. The audience expected Ethan to choose a flashy, famous alien, someone who would strengthen his political alliances and status. But Ethan's eyes scanned the rows quietly, noticing someone most people overlooked. She sat near the back, her posture straight but unassuming. Her hair fell gently over her shoulders, her eyes calm and observing. She did not wave, smile, or draw attention like the others. Yet there was a sense of intelligence and grace in her quiet demeanor. This was Princess Lyra, a young woman from a minor noble family whose influence was considered small. Many of the galaxy's elite barely acknowledged her presence. Ethan approached her with measured steps. The crowd watched in disbelief as he extended his hand. "I choose her," he said simply. Gasps filled the hall. Aliens whispered and pointed. How could he choose the quiet, unremarkable princess? What could she possibly offer a human who had just outshone the galaxy's finest? Many nobles laughed, thinking it a joke, a sign of ignorance or poor judgment. But Ethan's expression did not change. He had seen something others had missed: her sharp mind, her calm observation, and her quiet strength. Princess Lyra looked at Ethan with surprise. She had expected no one to notice her, certainly not a human, but she saw no arrogance or desire for fame in him. There was respect in his eyes, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. Slowly, she rose and took his hand. The murmurs of the audience grew louder, some questioning, some intrigued. The judges confirmed the choice. Ethan and Lyra were now officially partners in the tournament's eyes. While some delegates grumbled, a few curious eyes watched with interest. What did this human see in a quiet princess? What was he planning? As they left the grand hall, Lyra followed Ethan through the bustling corridors. She had lived her life, surrounded by formality, protocols, and expectations. But Ethan's presence made everything feel different, fresh, open, and full of possibilities. She realized that she could speak freely, that her thoughts mattered, and that perhaps this human saw her true potential. Ethan, walking beside her, remained calm and focused. He knew that their partnership would surprise and challenge the galaxy, that people would underestimate them, and that they would face resistance. But he also knew that humans had an advantage that aliens often overlooked: the ability to think beyond tradition, to combine courage with intellect, and to see value where others saw none. For Lyra, this moment was the start of a new life. She had been quiet all her days, overlooked and underestimated. But now, chosen by a human who saw more than appearances, she felt a spark of confidence she had never known. Together they would step into a galaxy that expected them to fail, and quietly prove that both human ingenuity and hidden strength could reshape the future. And so as the twin suns set over the tournament arena, Ethan and Lyra walked side by side, the galaxy watching in shock and curiosity. The human had chosen a quiet princess, and no one yet understood the storm that choice would bring. After the tournament ended, Ethan and Lyra traveled together toward his home planet, a quiet world far from the crowded politics of the galaxy's core. The journey was long, passing through stars, nebulae, and uncharted sectors. Most of the alien delegates believed Ethan had made a mistake by choosing Lyra. They whispered behind closed doors, calling her weak, unremarkable, or naive. But Ethan paid no attention. He had seen her true strength, the quiet intelligence that no one else noticed. Lyra, on the other hand, had never experienced freedom like this. In her palace, she had always followed rules, listened to advisors, and remained in the shadow of her older siblings. Now, walking beside Ethan, she felt a strange mix of nervousness and excitement. She asked questions about his world, about human culture, and about the choices he had made. Ethan answered patiently, explaining how humans valued creativity, courage, and thinking beyond limits. "We are often underestimated," he said, "but that gives us an advantage. People do not expect us to do the unexpected." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. She had seen that in him already. During the tournament, he had solved problems that no alien could, not by power, but by seeing connections others missed. She realized that quiet strength was not weakness, it was understanding, patience, and the ability to act when the moment was right. Their first stop was a space station in the neutral sector, where diplomats and merchants from many worlds gathered. Ethan wanted Lyra to experience life outside her palace, to understand how ordinary beings lived. The station was alive with alien races, some with bright colors, others with strange forms. Lyra watched in wonder as merchants traded goods, travelers haggled, and children ran freely laughing. "This is very different from my home," she said softly. "Everyone seems so free." Ethan smiled. "Freedom is a choice. And the more you understand how the galaxy works. Observation is as important as action." While exploring, they encountered a group of aliens who mocked Lyra quietly, sneering at her quietness and simple attire. One of them, a tall alien, with silver scales, laughed. "You expect to rule or lead anyone, a quiet princess? Ha!" Lyra's cheeks flushed, but Ethan stepped forward calmly. "Do not underestimate someone because they are quiet," he said. "Strength is not always loud." The alien scoffed and walked away, leaving Lyra shaken but also thoughtful. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You see, he said, people judge quickly, but we have time. Quiet observation and careful thinking will let us see things they cannot. Over the next few days, Ethan began teaching Lyra human problem-solving strategies. They practiced simulations of political conflicts, debates, and small fleet maneuvers. Ethan encouraged Lyra to speak up, to make decisions, and to trust her judgment. She was hesitant at first, doubting her own abilities, but slowly she began to see patterns in situations, noticing details that others overlooked. In private, Lyra started to ask questions, challenge ideas, and suggest strategies. Ethan listened with interest, impressed by her insight. You think differently from anyone I have met, he told her. Quiet minds often see more than loud ones. That is why I chose you. As their bond grew, rival alien nobles began to plot. News of Ethan's unusual choice had spread. Many laughed behind closed doors, thinking a human and a quiet princess posed no threat. But a few sharp-eyed observers noted so. By the time Ethan and Lyra arrived at his home planet, news of their unusual partnership had spread across the galaxy. Aliens from many worlds whispered in disbelief. A human had chosen a quiet, unassuming princess. Many expected failure. Some even laughed openly at the idea. But Ethan paid no attention to gossip. He knew Lyra's potential, and he had begun to see it growing stronger each day. Lyra, walking beside Ethan through the bustling streets of his planet, felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She had never left the controlled environment of her palace before, and now she was seeing a world full of life, diversity, and unexpected possibilities. Humans, aliens, and hybrid species moved freely through marketplaces and research hubs, sharing ideas, trading goods, and solving problems together. For the first time, Lyra realized that the galaxy was not a place to simply follow rules. It was a place to act, observe, and think. Ethan guided her through the capital city, pointing out various centers of learning, defense, and governance. Knowledge is power, he said. Understanding people and situations is as important as having strength or weapons. That is something many of the galaxy's elites often forget. Lyra nodded, absorbing every detail. She began to notice things humans and aliens alike often overlooked. Patterns in trade, the way leaders communicated with subtle gestures, even the way crews moved through the starports with efficiency. She felt a spark of confidence. Perhaps being quiet and observant was not a weakness, it was a gift. Their stay, however, was not without challenges. Alien nobles who had been observing Ethan and Lyra's progress began to test them. One faction sent emissaries to the capital, hoping to intimidate Ethan and show that a human and a quiet princess were no match for galactic politics. The emissaries arrived with formal demands, criticizing Ethan's choice and hinting that Lyra was not ready for responsibility. Lyra felt a flicker of fear. She had spent her life being told what to do, never imagining she could stand on her own in the galaxy. But Ethan's calm presence steadied her. Remember, he said quietly, quiet minds often see more than loud ones. Observe, think, and act. Do not let their noise distract you. During the first meeting, Lyra remained silent as alien emissaries delivered their pointed criticisms. She listened carefully, noting their tone, gestures, and underlying intentions. Ethan spoke firmly but diplomatically, deflecting the insults and emphasizing logic and fairness. Yet, quietly, Lyra began to interject at key moments, offering suggestions that clarified misunderstandings and highlighted overlooked details. The emissaries were caught off guard. A princess who had seemed meek was now guiding the conversation with subtle authority, and Ethan allowed her words to carry weight. Over the next few days, Lyra continued to grow in confidence. She began taking initiative, proposing solutions to logistical challenges, negotiating minor disputes among traders, and even advising Ethan on political alliances. Each step was small, but each step surprised observers. Aliens who had dismissed her as unremarkable now began to whisper among themselves. There is more to this princess than meets the eye, they said. Ethan watched with quiet pride. Do you see? he asked one evening as they walked along a river that reflected the lights of the city. People judge based on what they see, not what they understand. Your quietness is not weakness. It allows you to think, to notice, to guide. That is why I chose you. Lyra smiled softly. She realized that she had already started to shape events without anyone noticing. Her calm observation and careful words were influencing decisions and earning respect. She felt a thrill. This was her first taste of real power, and it was different from the ceremonial authority she had known in her palace. Here, she earned influence by her mind, not her title. Meanwhile, whispers of Ethan and Lyra's success reached rival factions across the galaxy. Some laughed at the idea that a human and a quiet princess could make a difference. Others, however, watched closely, recognizing a potential threat. Fleet commanders began reassessing their strategies, diplomats started reconsidering alliances, and spies were sent to observe the duo's movements. One afternoon, while visiting a trade hub on the planet's outskirts, Lyra noticed a group of young alien engineers struggling to repair a damaged drone. The adults around them had given up, deeming it too difficult. Lyra knelt beside the children, gently guiding their hands and explaining the process. Within minutes, the drone sprang to life, moving smoothly across the floor. The children cheered, and even the watching adults were impressed. Ethan watched, from a distance, nodding. Leadership is not always about giving orders. Sometimes it is about showing the way and allowing others to grow. That is the kind of leader you are becoming. Lyra felt a warmth she had never known. She realized that she could influence people without raising her voice, without force, simply by thinking carefully, acting decisively, and showing others what to do. Her quiet nature was not a barrier. It was a tool. However, not everyone was pleased. Alien nobles who had once dismissed Lyra began plotting to test her limits. They sent messages hinting at challenges, disguised as requests for assistance or ceremonial appearances. Their goal was to expose her inexperience and show the galaxy that Ethan had made a foolish choice. But each challenge only gave Lyra more opportunities to demonstrate her insight, her calm decisiveness, and her growing confidence. By the time weeks had passed, Lyra had begun to speak openly in meetings, offer advice to Ethan, and even lead small delegations. Her quiet intelligence was earning respect across the planet and beginning to attract attention beyond it. Aliens who had once mocked her were now curious, some even cautious, realizing that this quiet princess might be capable of more than anyone had imagined. One evening, as they prepared to depart for the next stage of their journey, Lyra looked at Ethan with a newfound determination. "I understand now," she said softly. "Being quiet does not mean being weak. It means observing, learning, and choosing the right moment to act. And I want to use that strength to help, to lead, and to protect." Ethan smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Exactly. And the galaxy will notice, whether it wants to or not. You are stronger than you realize, Lyra, and together we can do more than anyone expects." As their ship lifted off into the starry expanse, Lyra looked out at the galaxy ahead. For the first time, she felt that she was not just a princess, chosen as a prize. She was a partner, a thinker, and a leader in her own right. And the galaxy, whether it realized it yet or not, was about to witness the rise of a quiet but powerful force. News of Lyra's growing influence spread quickly across the nearby star systems. Aliens who had once doubted her began to take notice. The quiet princess, once considered weak and unremarkable, was now being spoken of with curiosity and, in some cases, respect. Rumors circulated of her cleverness, her calm decisiveness, and her unusual ability to see solutions that others overlooked. Many began to wonder, could a human and a quiet princess really change the balance of power in the galaxy? Ethan and Lyra had returned to the human home planet, where their partnership continued to grow stronger. Every day, Lyra learned more about human ways of problem-solving, strategy, and leadership. She began applying these lessons to real situations, quietly guiding decisions and offering insights that even seasoned alien advisors found valuable. One morning, a distress call reached the planet from a neighboring system. A group of freighters was under attack by space raiders, and the local fleet was unable to respond quickly enough. Ethan and Lyra were immediately consulted. Most alien leaders expected Ethan to give orders while Lyra observed, but Ethan did, something unexpected. He let her lead. Lyra felt her pulse quicken. This was the first time she had the authority to make real decisions in a live situation. She studied the fleet reports, the star maps, and the raider positions. Her mind worked quickly, connecting data points, predicting movements, and calculating outcomes. Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. Divide the fleet into 3 groups. 2 will distract the raiders while 1 approaches the freighters. From behind, timing must be precise. We cannot underestimate them. Ethan nodded and followed her plan exactly. The fleet executed her strategy with precision. The raiders were caught off guard, confused by the coordinated movements. The freighters were saved without a single loss. When the battle ended, even the most skeptical alien commanders approached Lyra, some with surprise, others with admiration. "You planned this entirely?" one commander asked. Lyra nodded quietly. "I observed, I analyzed, and I acted. That is all." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling proudly. "This is what I saw in you from the beginning. Quiet observation, careful thought, and decisive action. That combination is more powerful than any display of force." Word of Lyra's leadership spread faster than the fastest starship. Across the galaxy, reports of the quiet princess who had saved freighters and outsmarted raiders reached ears that once mocked her. Some aliens who had laughed at her name now whispered it with caution, realizing she was no ordinary princess. But with recognition came attention from rivals. A coalition of alien factions, feeling threatened by Ethan and Lyra's growing influence, began to plan their response. They hoped to test her again, to find a weakness, to prove that a quiet princess could never command fleets or make strategic decisions. The galaxy was watching. Stories of the quiet princess and her human companion had spread far and wide. Many aliens still doubted Lyra, expecting her to falter under real pressure. Others, however, were curious, eager to see if the girl who had quietly guided fleets in simulations could succeed in an actual conflict. Ethan received urgent messages from a nearby system. A powerful raider fleet had begun attacking trade routes, threatening the safety of dozens of planets. The planetary councils were overwhelmed and requested immediate assistance. Ethan turned to Lyra. "This is your moment," he said. "You have studied, you have observed, and you have led simulations. Now you will lead for real." Lyra's pulse quickened. This was no exercise. Lives depended on her decisions. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. She opened the tactical maps, reviewing the positions of her allies and the raider fleet. Her mind worked quickly, connecting all the information, predicting enemy movements, and planning counterattacks. "Divide the fleet into 4 groups," she said firmly. 2 will engage directly, drawing attention and exhausting the raiders. 1 will move to flank their main ships while the 4th protects the civilians. Timing is crucial. Communication must be clear and no ship should act without orders. Ethan nodded, trusting her completely. "Do it," he said. The operation began. As Lyra commanded from the central bridge, the fleet moved with precision. Her calm voice guided captains, her instructions clear and concise. She anticipated the raiders' moves before they happened, redirecting ships to cover weak points and protect vulnerable cargo vessels. The raiders, expecting chaos and hesitation from the human-led fleet, were surprised. Every maneuver Lyra predicted was countered before it could succeed. Her quiet intelligence and careful planning allowed the fleet to outmaneuver a force far larger than their own. In one critical moment, a raider capital ship attempted to break through the flanking group. Lyra noticed a weak energy field near its engine. "Focus fire on the rear stabilizers," she ordered. The fleet followed her direction perfectly. With a brilliant display of precision, the raider ship was immobilized without damaging the surrounding vessels. Her calm, quiet assessment had saved countless lives. Ethan watched from beside her, silently impressed. He had always known she had potential, but seeing her lead in a live battle confirmed what he already suspected. Lyra was extraordinary, She did not seek recognition or glory. She acted because it was necessary, and her actions spoke louder than words ever could. The battle continued for hours, but under Lyra's leadership, the raiders were systematically neutralized. They retreated from the system, defeated and confused by the strategic genius of the Quiet Princess. Reports came in from planetary governors. No civilian ships were lost, trade routes were secured, and the fleet had performed flawlessly. Word spread immediately. Aliens who had doubted her abilities were forced to reconsider. The Quiet Princess, who had once been overlooked, was now the commander of a fleet that had achieved what many thought impossible. Her calm demeanor, intelligence, and courage had turned the tide, earning the respect of those who had once mocked her. Lyra, exhausted but composed, turned to Ethan. "I didn't expect it to feel like this," she said softly. "I knew I could plan and predict, but seeing it work, and knowing we saved so many." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You led with skill and heart. That is why people follow you. Quiet minds are often the strongest. The galaxy is finally beginning to see that." Even rival factions began sending observers not to challenge her, but to learn from her strategies. Diplomats approached with cautious respect, seeking alliances or guidance. Lyra realized that leadership was not just about battles. It was about influence, trust, and the ability to inspire others without force. During a debriefing, one of the fleet captains said, "Princess Lyra, your strategies were flawless. We have never seen such precision under pressure. You are remarkable." Lyra shook her head, almost shyly. "I only did what was necessary. I only observed and acted carefully. The fleet performed because they trusted the plan and each other." Ethan smiled. "That is leadership. You do not need to boast. Your actions speak for you." The victory cemented their reputation. Aliens who had once mocked the Quiet Princess now approached her with respect, some seeking counsel, others offering cooperation. The galaxy was beginning to understand that true strength could come in quiet forms, and that intelligence, strategy, and calm courage could be more powerful than showy displays of force. Lyra's confidence grew. She no longer hesitated to speak in meetings, advise on fleet movements, or plan complex operations. Her quiet strength became a defining feature, inspiring loyalty and admiration from humans and aliens alike. Ethan, watching her grow, realized that choosing Lyra had been more than a personal decision. It had been a turning point in the galaxy's history. She had taken a chance, embraced her abilities, and transformed from an overlooked princess into a leader capable of commanding fleets and shaping the fate of entire systems. That night, after the fleet returned to their base, Lyra and Ethan stood, together on the observation deck of the flagship. Stars stretched endlessly around them, distant suns twinkling in the darkness. Lyra felt a new sense of purpose. "I understand now," she said quietly. "Being quiet does not mean being powerless. It means thinking, observing, and acting at the right time. And with that, I can make a difference." Ethan nodded. "You already have. And this is only the beginning. The galaxy will see more, much more of what you are capable of. Quiet, yes, but unstoppable." Lyra looked out at the stars, feeling a sense of pride, determination, and responsibility. She had earned the trust of the fleet, proven her abilities in battle, and begun to shape the galaxy's future. She was no longer just a princess chosen as a prize. She was a leader, a strategist, and a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. And Ethan knew as he watched her that together they had changed the course of history. The Quiet Princess had become a commander, and the galaxy would never underestimate her again. The galaxy had changed. Word of Lyra's victories and clever strategies had spread across multiple star systems. Aliens who had once mocked her quiet demeanor now spoke her name with respect. The princess who had been overlooked was now commanding fleets, advising planetary councils, and influencing decisions across the stars. And at her side, always, was Ethan, the human who had first seen her potential and never doubted it. Lyra had grown into a leader in every sense. Her calm observation, Careful thinking and decisive actions had earned her loyalty from humans and aliens alike. She no longer doubted herself. She no longer hesitated to act. Each fleet operation, each diplomatic discussion, and each challenge she faced only strengthened her resolve. One morning, a message arrived from a distant quadrant. An entire trade network was under threat from a coalition of pirate fleets. Several planets faced shortages, and civilian lives were at risk. Leaders of the affected systems pleaded for help. This would be Lyra's largest challenge yet. Ethan looked at her calmly. "This is your chance to lead on the grandest scale so far. Are you ready?" Lyra studied the star maps, analyzing fleet positions, logistics, and supply lines. "We must act quickly but carefully," she said. "We will organize our forces into 5 groups, 3 to intercept the pirates, 1 to protect the civilians, and 1 to maintain communication between the planets. Coordination will be key. Timing must be precise." The fleet launched under her command. Thousands of ships moved through the stars in careful formation, each captain following her instructions. The coalition of pirates, confident in their numbers, attempted to strike quickly, but Lyra anticipated their moves, adjusting fleet formations and setting traps. Every attempt the pirates made to ambush the fleet failed. In one critical moment, the pirates targeted a supply convoy. Lyra quickly reassigned a squadron to intercept, then directed another group to flank the enemy. With careful precision, the convoy was saved, and the pirate forces were forced into retreat. Ethan observed, quietly. He could have given orders himself, but he trusted Lyra completely. Her quiet strength, patience, and intelligence were exactly what the situation required. As the battle ended, reports poured in. No civilian ships were lost, the pirate fleets were scattered, and trade routes were secured. Lyra's leadership had not only prevented disaster, but it also demonstrated that careful planning and calm decision-making could overcome even overwhelming odds. Across the galaxy, observers were stunned. The quiet princess had proven she could command thousands of ships, save entire systems, and outthink seasoned adversaries. Aliens who had doubted her abilities were now openly seeking her guidance. Even rival factions approached cautiously, recognizing that Lyra was not someone to challenge lightly. Later, in a private council chamber aboard the flagship, Lyra reviewed the battle with her captains. She asked questions, listened to their reports, and offered guidance for improvement. Her leadership was firm but fair. She encouraged initiative while maintaining the cohesion of the fleet. Her calm confidence inspired loyalty, respect, and trust. Ethan watched from the doorway, proud. "You have done more than I ever imagined," he said. "Not only have you led fleets, but you have also earned the trust and admiration of the galaxy. Your quiet mind is now recognized as a powerful force." Lyra smiled softly,